Hi, I'm Sabra.
I'm Rayyan.
And I'm Zayan, and we are part of
Seriously.
Seriously.
I remember when I was in university, I was part of the climate strike, and it even happened in Maldives, I believe. So, it's quite a hot topic these days, and, we really need to talk a hot topic, as in literally, it's getting hot, guys.
I think actually talking about it is the most important thing we can do in terms of climate action. So you were part of the climate strikes, you said, when you were at university. Do you feel the difference between what you could do at uni and what you can do now?
In uni, I would say it was very, we were very rebellious, because we sort of, university tere gaule coding everything. We demanded university to sort of cut back coal, and, it was very rebellious. But when you go into work, there has to be sort of standards as well. So, it has to be, Waraboda organized, and there has to be collective solidarity, right, when it comes to climate action, which I think, that's the biggest difference that I see. And especially at UNICEF, we have, to engage a lot of young people, and that's what we do. And so, it's about that collective effort, rather than individual being rebellious. Uh, that was the rebellious phase in university, but it's more like a strike. But so yeah, I suppose negotiating, engaging young people in policy making.
I think for me it was quite different compared to what Zayan has mentioned, because I would be lying if I said I was raising awareness and everything. Unfortunately, I would have to say I was very ignorant on the matter. Like, it's not something I was voicing out my opinions for, because I was busy doing other things. But now, looking back, I would rather have done something more meaningful. But I'm not saying I regret what I did, but it's something I could have done as well, made better use of my time for.
When people hear that you're from the Maldives, or is there something that they ask you immediately about? Do they have some assumptions about climate change, Raja, Dani, etc., etc.? I mean, is it something that you've faced before? Or?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, ever since 2006, I've been living abroad. I came back to the Maldives in 2018. So I think for majority of my schooling, I was outside. So I remember when I did my first grade science fair project, and I made a dam, like just a
Like a beaver.
no, yeah, yeah, exactly, with a beaver and everything. So, but I still remember that I had a colleague who was from, I think, Korea, if I'm not wrong. She made a model of Maldives sinking. And I remember going to the science fair.
Really?
Yeah, I was very young, mind you. I was in grade 1 or 2. So I saw it, and then I was like, Maldives is sinking. And then I had no idea. Well, I was like, why is Maldives sinking? I was offended,
Yeah.
Like, why did you make my country? Why is it sinking? Yeah, so, and I would say that was when I was first aware that Maldives is sinking. But at the same time, like, it's been the common assumption from everyone outside Maldives that we are going to be sinking, we will be sinking. I mean, we're still here.
No, for me, when I was in uni, they talk about, I was in Australia, so I mean, they face a lot of climate issues there as well, the bushfires and things. But they have like, a different mindset that we are sinking, right? So when I mentioned that, our corals, they bleach, um, and we have, issues with like beach erosion, this is why we are sort of, it's more than just sinking. I think we need to have these discussions in order to like raise awareness and bring the intricacies of climate change also into the fore.
What's the best way to kind of talk to young people about climate change?
I think just hanging out, right? Like for me, when me and my friends we just hang out, we talk about everything under the sun, literally, like, or politics, about society, about what's happening, what's the hot costs. Like we all talk about everything. So I think hanging out is like what makes those conversations happen, and those anecdotes come really easily also when you start having conversations.
Well, how would you describe what would you describe a green skill as?
Skills would be, skills that you have when you're basically like living, skills that you need to acquire when you need to like live a sustainable life. That's the best way I could like describe it. For instance, reducing, reusing, those are like green skills. But also, technically speaking, you can be an oceanographer. That's a huge green skill. Green building design, the working in the sustainable field, those are like technical green skills.
Yeah, I'm.
Thrifting is a green skill.
Kihawaraka, like school, how much was environment or climate change a subject that came up in when you were in school?
For me, it was very different because I studied specific subjects. Like, I studied arts, so there was stuff like geography, where we studied about weather patterns, about the intricacies of climate change. Like, the climate has been changing for many years, but um, it's just that, global warming is something caused by humans in a modern age. Though climate is always changing. So people sort of tend to, look over that and say deny though. But a lot of students don't have the opportunity to study those subjects. And to talk about mitigation and adaptation, like I did study that. So I was required to write, exams on that. But yeah, my experience is different, right?
Do you know what mitigation means?
Mitigation. I have no idea what mitigation means, but I think it's something I look forward to learning, and I'm hoping there's going to be someone who explains it to me.
Okay, what does adaptation mean?
Adaptation. I know the literal meaning of adaptation, but I'm also convinced that there's deeper meanings to these.
What do you think? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when we say climate change adaptation?
Like adapting to the climate. Like, for example, it's hot. Let's make it cold. Let's get better at being hot. You know what I mean?
Get better at being hot.
I mean, um, oh no.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I remember like when I studied global warming, it's about like the polar bear on the sheet of ice, right?
And you know when we were in Lamu
Yeah.
for UNICEF and we were meeting with the school kids and everyone was told to draw what they thought climate change was, most kids drew icebergs and polar bears. And I thought, like, Divehirajega, shouldn't we be drawing like coral reefs and yeah, I mean it felt like they were more quick to like relate climate change to melt to polar bears than like coral reefs.
I think because for us, we've always been taught like that is where it begins, like with the glaciers melting and everything. So I'm like in, I'm trying to relate to the kids, and what I can think of is like, it is what comes to my mind too when you say global warming. Like, I think about the glaciers melting and then the polar bears, then everything. Yeah. So I think it's more towards how they have been brought into it. Like, even now, I feel like I'm not saying it's the way the education that we have received has put it out there, but that is what we have gotten.
Yeah, like, there has to be more books accessible on Maldives on climate change, more books, more articles, and make it more relatable to us. But it is relatable in lived experience, but at the same time, people don't have the knowledge. So I think to connect, yeah, exactly, theory.
So your science project, the dam,
My science project, yeah.
what
I,
happened? Like,
I made a dam. I got first place.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, the kid who made Maldives sinking got third. So, I mean,
vindication.
so I feel like now, like, it's like, looking back, it's like, yeah, maybe she should have gotten first place, because she had the bigger idea, but my execution was better. And yeah.
Excited for this to have these conversations, and I look forward.
Yeah,
to the interviews.
definitely. And I'm looking to leech on for information from people who come here to give us more insight about this topic.